Friends, we have Datuk Seri Garry Chua here today with us. He is the current president of Malaysian Retail Chain Association, Malaysia. He is also the president of the Rotoll Group. Okay, they run retail chains themselves. One of them being the Chakri Palace in the rooftop in Sri Hartamas and also KLCC. And he also runs the Sanuk chain of restaurants, right? Okay, so a lot of friends have been already asking questions today. So what do you think about the current situation of the retail? A lot of retail companies have been having quite a blow. Is it bad? Is it getting better, or is it good right now?
Okay, just to give an overall general view about what is happening in the retail market is that basically most of the retailers at the mall, they're still having about 30%, 20 to 30% of their normal sales. Even the pharmacies and the mall, they are having about 50% of the normal sales. And of course, the fast food probably having about 40 to 50%, like Mary Brown and others. Even the fashion and the food, the what you call it, footwear, like JD Sports and all this, they're only having about 20% to 30% sales. So it's still pretty, what you call it, in a very sluggish manner now at the moment. Even the convenience stores where they are located at the commercial sectors, they're down by 20%. And even the F&B and the rest are the most scoring about 10 to 30%, you see. So you can see the dire straits of many of the retailers at the moment. What is important now is that they have to quickly recoup what they lost time.
You can carry on.
Okay, coming back to the retail.
Yeah.
So basically, generally, everyone is having a very tough time.
Right.
Okay, except the grocers and supermarket and the hypermarkets are still doing pretty well. Okay, the rest of them actually, all the retail are having a very hard time now. Of course, many of them will need to survive. Many, they have to scale down and rationalize the outlets, maybe scale down the number of outlets, and also maybe have to redo what you call it, collaboration, different kind of concept, a stronger concept they have to come in to make sure they survive in the longer term, mid-term to longer term. This is also what we are doing as well, especially. And for the other sectors, for example, even the manufacturing and many other sectors, many of them diversify to survive, you see. For example, I have many friends who are in the manufacturing sector. They convert to doing sanitizers. And this is exactly what is happening in China too, you see. Many of them even convert their garment factory to do masks and all this. This is a very difficult period. People need to survive, you see. They will have to do whatever necessary to make sure we can tie through this very difficult period. So that's where the government needs to come in at this very difficult time, especially giving more of the soft loans. So far, the government has been giving only so far, the banks have approved 20,000 of the SMEs having their loans. But not forgetting, there are 900,000, more than 900,000 SMEs in Malaysia, okay? So at least, let's say 1/3 of it, don't even talk about 1/5, or we talk about half or 50%, just 1/3 is 300,000. So lately, the government has come up with a scheme to add in another 1 billion or so for the SME. I think that is grossly insufficient. The intention is very good, but we need more support from the government and the banks, you see. And the bank's moratorium need to be extended by at least for the next 3 months or at least up to the end of the year, just like in Singapore. And the moratorium also should include things like overdraft, LC facilities, and also BA facilities, not just a term loan, because majority of the SMEs are also operating with a lot of facilities with the banks, you see. And if they need to pay, then it's going to be very difficult. And the subsidy so far has been very good in the sense, but we also need to have an extension of another 3 months and also increase the number of staff, you see. So far, you can claim up to 200 staff, but majority of the chain members and manufacturing, the SMEs, there are more than 1,000 staff, you see. So at least the government can help by, if let's say, it would be very good, it can increase by 400 to 500, at least meet in between. I think that this would help a lot of the retailers as well, you see. And it's very, very important. And also the other thing is the COVID law that has to come in to kick in to protect all the SMEs and retailers. For example, to ensure that no, unfair sort of forfeiture of the deposits, or legal suits on non-payments and all this during this difficult period. There must be some kind of consensus between the landlords and the tenants, and also the suppliers with the retailers and the SMEs. Things need to be restructured so that we can move forward. You see, I think this is very, very, very important for the current moment. And the announcement yesterday by the Prime Minister, I think there's something very good came out of it. For example, the property and the cars. These are big ticket items. You see, this will spur the economy. I believe this is very good. Except the property side, they should include the foreigners, because locally the T20, that means the top 20, even the the M40, many of them do not have very much to spend, you see. So we need the foreigners to come in to at least to clear one off at least to clear all the old stocks of the property. The government should sort of allow this, you see, for foreigners to come invest, especially now, the trying times. There are a lot of investors from Hong Kong and so many other countries wish to come into Malaysia, including even Singaporeans. And we need to clear up this to help the developers and to add in more cash flow and pumping cash flow into the marketplace. This is very important. And also the digital incentive given by the government, and especially the tourism. Government is giving $1 billion loans for all the tourism related companies or industry. It's also another big relief to the industry. And we hope the tourism can kick off starting sort of in August or so, because retail depends a lot on tourism as well. When tourists comes into Malaysia, they easily spend more than 1/3 on shopping. And what more about entertainment and food and others, you see? This may add up to 40 to 50% of their whole pockets of expenditure. And this will be very, very critical also for the survival of the retailers in the coming 6 months to 1 year or so. And we have to look forward to all this.
Datuk Seri, what is your forecast for the retail industry from now till 2021?
We expect the retail will be quite sluggish till year end, where year end will be a peak time for consumers to come out to spend in the big spree, especially during the school holidays and the festive season, Christmas and Chinese New Year, and also the New Year. So end of this year, November, December, we expect there'll be a big sort of increase in terms of consumption, you see. But to come back to normalcy, I expect it to be at least middle of next year. We have to have a period of at least another 6 months from the end of this year to get back people to go back to the normalcy consumption sort of pattern, you see. Because at the moment, currently, still a lot of people are afraid to come out, and there's reservation of going shopping. But to sort of give the confidence, you look at objectively in Malaysia, we are still the safest in Asia. We only have 1% fatality, and more than 40% are from the religious sort of gathering, and more than 30 or 40% are from the the dormitories and the foreign workers. So if let's say we focus on this area, we are very safe, and the rest are all from imported cases. So you and me are in the public, we are generally very safe. Of course, I will not encourage the children, the young, and the sick, and the elderly to expose themselves. But generally, Malaysia is very safe, and this can be a big selling point for tourism, and also the opening up the economy. So I believe the government is going the right direction, but much more can be done. So the government actually going to the right direction, but much more can be done to ease the economy and to get kickstarting all the the business in various sectors, from the supply chain to exports to retail, SMEs, and the host of others, so that we can go back to normalcy as soon as possible by the middle of next year or so. And this will also bring back quick economic recovery to Malaysia. I think Malaysia is quite unique. Our economy is quite diversified. Now even oil prices are quite holding quite well, more than above $40 USD. I think this also spurs well to the economy. And I believe Malaysia can recover faster than many other countries in terms of diversity and the dynamism of the entrepreneurs in Malaysia, I think.
Okay. So the next question is, what should retailers themselves be doing right now to help themselves? What are some of the tips you can share?
I think cash flow is very important. You see, if you have 1 or 2 outlets, it's not so difficult. We have many retailers who are chain members. They have more than 10, 20, 30, and so many outlets. So it's high time to rationalize all your outlets. Are you in the right location? Is your location, your outlet in that locality viable? Or can it be sustainable in the next 3 to 6 months? I think that's a very important question to ask ourselves. If it's not sustainable, you have to do something about it. That's why you have to rationalize in terms of your staffing and in terms of the number of outlets you have. And you may also bring in to collaborate with some other stronger sort of retail names to move forward. There are a few ways, or you can also do a joint venture with some others. And very importantly, you also have to need to discuss with your suppliers. You need to restructure the supply chain, your suppliers in terms of the payment modes. You definitely have to restructure from 6 to 12 months. If the figure is big, you probably have to talk about 12 months. The smaller one, probably within 3 to 6 months. And of course, your banks as well. It's high time you sit down with the banks to maybe get some more soft loans to tie through this difficult period. At the same time, you have to ensure your cash flow is sufficient to pay all your bills, you see, at the current moment. So these are some of the things you have to look at very seriously. And of course, you have to look at possibilities of some diversification. And for those who have a big very deep pockets, you may even look at future business to go into business that is more recurring. For example, food, or the essential goods, And for those, of course, smaller pockets, you can't do that. You have to find ways maybe to team up even with the people with deeper pockets. There are a lot of people in the industry actually who generally have a lot of money. They're looking.
Okay. Now the next question is from Melissa, right? The question is, how can the retail industry create awareness at this time, apart from social media?
You see, during MCO lockdown, because there's not much of physical contact, the best mode is, of course, online, digital. And digital is the way to move forward. Okay, to survive retail in the middle to long term, you definitely have to engage both online and offline. Just like what is happening in China and the States, you see. You look at even Walmart, the biggest hypermarket in the world, today has become the leading online company as well. You look at today, USA, the most sort of click-on platform besides Amazon is Walmart. Formerly was a physical hypermarket. And during the lockdown, they have scored tremendous sales in terms of online as well. So you see things have changed. Same goes for Alibaba. They also have started offline physical store like Kerma and many others. And even Amazon has bought into wholesale market, a grocer physical store. So you can see you must have both to create the presence. How can we create more awareness? There's many other ways. Nowadays, it's talking about a lot of collaboration as well. You cannot survive on your brand alone. If you have other brands, as I mentioned, in terms of awareness, you can also do a lot of collaboration, whether it's online or offline. You have to capitalize on the big names, you see. Even Mercedes, very often you see when they launch something, they will bring in another brand to collaborate as well. Whether it's a location or it could be a very well-known watch, or could be any item that can collaborate to enhance the name. And for example, just now there's another question, whether we can convert retail to other kind of business. Of course, why not? When you talk about survival, there are a lot of hotels now, they're looking at converting, for example, into confinement centers or postnatal centers. You see, you'll be surprised during this time, there's a big demand for postnatal services. I got friends who are operating, they say, hey, my business has gone up. You get what I mean? So when the hotel is down, you have to think out the box how to create other kind of businesses. But sadly, in Malaysia, you talk about education. I don't know why we used to attract a lot of foreign students to Malaysia, but lately you can see that there is a very big lull of overseas population of students. So this is another area we mentioned to the government. We must do aggressive promotion, you see, because we have everything in Malaysia in terms of facility. We have some of the best universities. For example, look at Taylor College, Monash, Sunway, just to name a few. There's all these Nottingham and so many other good universities here. And we are also one of the top in terms of English language. There'll be millions of students from overseas, from China to elsewhere. They would like to pick up the English language. And Malaysia could be a center for this, you see. And it's so cheap because of the ringgit. The ringgit is so small. Now whoever comes to Malaysia, not only shopping, education, buying properties, and for tourism and traveling, even medical tourism, is so sort of value for money, you see or not? And in fact, even you talk about medical tourism, Malaysia today is the fastest growing in the world. Last year, we have about 16 to 70%. Although Thailand is the biggest, we are still the fastest growing, you see. So there's a lot of opportunity in Malaysia. It's a matter of how we can synergize and how to find the matching, Like there's some very good questions just now about, okay, we talk about converting spaces. It could also be converted into F&Bs, If let's say you have a warehouse or maybe even you have a retail mall space, you can also convert into some special F&B concept. People still, you look at, for example, there are still F&Bs doing very well during this downturn. For example, some of our Malaysia retail chain members, new members like Uncle Don, even some power plant and some others, they're still doing okay, you see. If you're doing okay at this juncture, I'm sure you'll do very well in the future, you see, in the coming months. So again, it's got to do with the pricing being right, value for money. I'm sure a lot of people are looking for value for money. Even the T20, for example, the day we're talking about with tourism minister, if let's say we can create value buy, even the T20, the top 20 will come and buy. For example, if we can give sort of big discount on Rolex and LV and whatever branded goods, I'm sure a lot of people will just take out their money and buy, you see. And properties now, the government is encouraging my ownership, the new ownership, whatever campaign, and with waiving of stamp duties and sort of RPGT, property gain tax. This will spur a lot of people to buy. You'll be surprised. Despite the downturn, there are a lot of people still holding their reserve elsewhere. So many may be affected, but some still have the money to go on, you see. So there's an opportunity. We see how we can match the concept and the business model. I think that's very important. But of course, now during downturn, pricing is important. People, as I said, will keep going for value for money. For example, 11 September, Alibaba sale. Last year scored about 38 billion USD, just one day. Why people are waiting for that day? Because you can have value, fantastic value buy. You see? Again, these are some of the opportunities we can look forward to. Like Malaysia, you see, for example, if let's say we can tie up with hotels and the airlines, retailers, we can sell Malaysia for sale to the world. I'm sure millions of them would love to come to Malaysia because Malaysia is still the safest. The ringgit is so sort of, it's so weak now, you see. You can buy property, we can shop, we can eat, whatever. And this is the best time actually Malaysia can market. And this will have multiplier effect to help the retailers and all the other business down the stream, is it?
Okay, so we have...
I saw the question that what is the reasonable discount on rental to ask from the landlord? Again, this is very subjective, you see. Of course, the government has mentioned to the GLC companies or the property owners that during the MCO, the government will say, okay, this should be free, because during MCO, there's no activity. But after the MCO, again, I think it's to be fair, I think it's also we have to look at the, what you call it, the space. Where is the location, the locality? if it's in a very super prime area where the rental is very high as a result of very high footfall and high traffic they're supposed to attract, and where there's no traffic, the discount naturally has to be higher, see? And of course, the suburb mall, where the rental is lower, naturally it could be less in terms of rebates, you see. And very importantly, we also mentioned to the government, like TNB can come in to help. If TNB can give a 50% rebate to all the mall owners, because TNB is one of the major bills for the malls. If that can happen, of course, the malls also can help all the retailers in a wider way in terms of rebates and longer period, you see. I think that is critical, because at this juncture, we have to work all together. And not forgetting, some of the malls are also having big loans from the banks. That's why the banks also should help in terms of restructuring the loan, so that also the malls who are having big loans and highly geared, they can tie through this big difficult period. So everyone has to sort of support each other. It's not just about 1% or 2%. It's an entire ecosystem in the business sector, from the government support to all the private and public sector. So everyone has to come in to support each other. And then we will tie through this pandemic in an easier manner,
Okay. So the question is, how does the retail industry see the value of content marketing and
There's a
PR?
question on digital here. You see, generally, most of the digital online companies are doing well. You see, of course, in any product we sell in the world, PR and marketing is one of the keys. You see, you may have the best product in the world, but if you don't have the proper PR and marketing, you can't sell your product. You see, you get what I mean? For example, you see, we have plenty of palm oil. If let's say we are not friendly with one country, we don't have good PR, how can we market? You see? And now in Europe, for example, you talk about palm oil, they're putting a propaganda, palm oil is harmful. And of course, Malaysia have to market in such a way that the value of palm oil, you see, of course, marketing and PR is very, very important, essential part of any business in the world. So this is essential part of any product we market. I think that's a very good question. We have to do that at all times. I saw there's a question on digital. You see, digital, we are still being very small. In Malaysia, we are talking about even online retail about 5% or so. The government wish to have a digital economy by 2020 this year, but I think we are behind now. At least to have 20% of digital by 2020. So how to kickstart, how to expedite this, how to spearhead this in the fastest manner? We can't do it alone. We need to collaborate with the biggest boys in town. For example, could be Alibaba, could be Tencent, could be even Amazon, you see. Whoever willing to work with us. But it seems like we have missed the last boat. We have the digital free trade zone. So now, because of the delay, it seems like I was told Alibaba went to Bangkok with this. But I'm sure they wish to come back here again, because no harm to reset another base in Malaysia. Because you'll be surprised, many of the foreign countries love Malaysia because of the culture, the food, the people here are friendly, the infrastructure. Of course, we have hiccups here and there, but Malaysia generally is still one of the best countries to live and to work, to invest. So we have a lot of potential. So we need to capitalize on that, you see. And for this digital to work, we need to, as I mentioned, the government need to kickstart the digital free trade zone. And yesterday announcement was good. It's a way to encourage more retailers, more SME companies to go on digital platform. It's a must to survive in the future. Like even Jack Ma said, this is a century of digital. Whether you like it or not, it's a century of digital. So we need to engage with digital. Everything online and digital. So that is important. Of course, you say that, it's dominated by, you mentioned the question is that e-commerce in Malaysia is dominated by China. Of course, it's up to the private sector and the government to engage with various countries. Which other country have the biggest in terms of digital besides China? Is America, is it? So it's up to us to maybe bring Amazon in and some others, and to enhance or to find a balance that this can move as fast as possible. See, is it not? And of course, the digital will be one of the fastest way. Even this lockdown is a very good example. You look at during this lockdown, the companies that actually achieved the most are the digital companies. You look at US alone, they're having record share prices now. For example, Netflix to Amazon to even Microsoft, and of course, all the other brick and mortar that converted into also balanced with the online. For example, Walmart and all these, they're scoring big time, you see. So that shows that digital is the right way to go in the future. Even in China, you can see that Tencent and Alibaba, they're still holding well. And in Malaysia, even we have digital companies like Fusion Next, they're all doing well, you see. So although there's some setbacks, but they're still generally still doing well, you see. So we need to find a balance with digital and the brick and mortar.
So the next
And
question
there's a question: how Malaysian retailer and service line use digital? There are so many ways. Payment gateway, for example, the e-wallet. We have to tie with Alipay. We have to tie with WeChat. In here we have Boost, we have Fave, we have Grab, Food Panda, Delivery, and so many others. You know, and this is the way to move forward. You see, that's a very interesting question. Tourism. We were engaging with the tourism minister last week, and the government is very keen to kickstart the tourism industry. You see, I believe by August or so things will be happening. Now it seems that domestic flights already allowed. You see, now we are waiting for the overseas flights to come into Malaysia. One of the first thing is that we must allow green zone to green zone to fly in. You see, so that is important. So we can target all the various cities that have big potential to bring in tourism. So this can bring in a lot of multiplier effects. The first thing, the hotels and the airlines must sit down to do a package. You look at many years ago in Bali, during the Bali, after the post-Bali Bombay, they did a very clever package. You look at the airlines and the hotels. They give a very, very value for money package. Can you imagine? Many thousands and thousands of people flown to Bali just for holidays. Even those who have not gone there, they took the trouble and they wish to visit the destination because of the value for money. It's so cheap. I can stay in a 5-star hotel for just half the price. Why not? So these are some of the very important points that we need to engage with. And then even in China now, you see, how the government spur domestic consumption, for example, they give 3 billion renminbi in terms of e-voucher. So everyone with a smartphone, you get an e-voucher. If you have an e-voucher, you will not waste it. You definitely go to the shopping mall or somewhere to shop, you see. This will bring people out into the fields again. And even Japan now, they're subsidizing 50% to all their domestic tourists. Whatever you spend, they subsidize 50%. This will, of course, immediately spur people to spend, and come out of the shelter, at least to relax and relieve after the big lockdown, for the last couple of months. And these are some of the quick actions the government must take, besides attracting the foreign tourism. So you must have both domestic and foreign tourism to bring in people back to Malaysia. And even the property, we can also have sort of what you call it, group tours for say like 5 days, 4 nights tour of Kuala Lumpur or Malaysia, Penang example, plus sort of investment opportunity to buy properties at big discounts, and even education, visit plus education. And these are some of the government can do to spur the economy. We have to be aggressive because we are not the only country that is going to be proactive. There are many other countries, like Thailand, they're preparing for it. Indonesia, they're preparing for it. And Japan already started, you see. So we have to be very more proactive than the rest of the countries if we want to be the first to recover from this pandemic, you see.
Yes, Japan, if I'm not mistaken, they've been giving a 50% flight rebate to travel.
Yes.
So they've been doing quite well there. So what can be done with the hotels that has been closed down?
You see, those have hotel been closed down. As I mentioned earlier, some of it perhaps could be converted to other avenues of business. It could be, let's say, postnatal or even confinement centers. It can also be converted to other kind of industry where there's a demand for it. You see, so whoever do the business, we have to get the right business model. You have to find the gaps of opportunity, the gaps of demand, where it lies. You see, these are some of the things we have to be sort of mindful. You see, and of course, we can also attract a lot of foreigners. Foreigners, when they buy a property, they have a lot of ideas. What they're going to do with it, you see? They could be converting into some special kind of concept. So that's why the foreign investors are important. We cannot just depend on the local, because in terms of local expenditure, I think cash flow, many have been exhausted, you see. You talk about the big tickets, we need the foreigners to come in. I was told there are a lot of foreigners from Hong Kong, even China, and other countries, and even in the Middle East. They have a lot of cash. They wish to invest in Malaysia. They like Malaysia, so it's the right price, right property, or right business model to market to these people. You see. So, and those are some of the things. Even hotels can be converted into. If let's say it's near a school, you can even convert into a hostel. You see, let's say if it's near colleges or whatever, there are many other ways of skinning the cat.
Okay. So what should the retail market do so that they can prepare themselves for future pandemics like this?
I think cash flow is of utmost importance. I think for every business sector now, I think we have to keep one side for some cash flow. I think that will be important. And of course, rationalizing operation, we mustn't overexpand, you see, because many of the SMEs or even the retailers, we tend to overexpand because when times are good, we just keep multiplying, you see, and suddenly things are not happening. We just hope for the future. So these are some of the things I think we have to look at, and then of course the right concept. You see, are we having the right concept? We are having borderline concept. We also have to review, and then the location. Are we in a strategic location? Are we paying the right rentals? If let's say the rental is very high, we have to make sure, okay, we have the sufficient turnover to buy through, or not borderline cases where we get ourselves in trouble. You see? So these are some of the things we have to look at for retail, and I can see that some of the retails are still okay. They can still survive this pandemic because some of the big boys, they have some good cash flow. They have a plan for the rainy days, and they did not overexpand it. And they also sort of control the number of staffing, and these are the people who will survive better than others. Those who expanded too fast pace and without looking at the numbers in a very in depth, then we may have a lot of issue on this. And in this difficult time, of course, you can also bring in, if you have a good brand, you can also bring in new investors. You'll be surprised that a lot of people wish to invest. There's still a lot of money in the marketplace. I have friends also who wish to invest, And of course, you can also talk about crowdfunding and others. You see. So these are some of the ways to tide through this difficult period.
So we are also having, some of the higher end retail stores. They are suffering a little bit more because there's less customers. Is that what's happening right now?
When you talk about the business in general, when there's a lockdown, not only the high end, lower end is also the same. Is it? It's a matter whether you have deep enough pockets to go through this time. And two of the major items we have to face are basically salary and rentals. You can't escape these two, you see. And if you have these two in mind, and it's already a very big challenge to overcome this. And especially during the lockdown, of course, wages we still can control to a certain extent. You see, we can sort of retrench some of the staff, or you can maybe relocate, ask them to go on unpaid leave, whatever. But in terms of rental, you can't, you see. So a lot also depends on the goodwill of the landlords. So far, some of the malls have been very generous, very good. They have been very magnanimous, very kind. We also wish to thank them. For example, Mid Valley and even Sunway and Bangsa Village and some others, and even Eco Cheras and many others, they have been very kind. And of course, eventually there'll be a middle path that everyone have to sit through, and we go through this together. I'm sure most of the landlords, they are all very good friends of ours, and they're also practical people. I'm sure they want the retailers and the SMEs to be with them for long term. I'm sure this will be one good opportunity to build up further in terms of relationship, you see, for the betterment of future.
This is the last question for today. Are the business in the malls picking up already?
Okay, regarding the malls, there's a question on the malls. Okay, you see, during this lockdown, we are still having MCO period now, RCMO. Okay, looking at the city malls, of course, are performing less than the suburb malls. For example, like Wanju or Mid Valley. Due to basically there's no tourists now. First thing, and secondly, many of the major offices are maybe half open or have not totally open, even including Petronas and all this. And thirdly, most of us live on the suburb. We go to KL City to work and to shop. So most of us, because of the pandemic, people are still having a bit of reservation going to the city. And these are some of the factors affecting the city malls. But on the suburb malls, they're doing much better. Even last weekend, you can see, they can look at traffic flow has gone up to more than 50-60%, some of it. But city malls are still having about 20-30% probably of the traffic, as with obvious reasons I mentioned. And these are big challenges the malls have to overcome. And for the malls to bring back the customers and all this, the footfall and the traffic, of course, I think there's a lot of marketing need to be done. Like just now, one of the question, PR and marketing. We need to do a lot of marketing, you see. For example, to inform the shoppers that, oh, the malls are really safe now. We have done so this and that in terms of prevention of the pandemic. And of course, there must be value buy. Why must you come to my mall if, let's say, I do not give you value buy? Example, we should give, free parking for maybe half a day, or if you have shopped more than a certain amount, free parking whole day. And then the retailers can come in, okay, we give you big discount for everything you shop. That's why we have to start selling Malaysia. So if, let's say, we give value for money and give the assurance of safety, I'm sure a lot of people will immediately get out of the chair and go shopping today, including today or this weekend. You see? So we have to be rational in our approach, you see. We have to understand the human psychology. So there's always the little greed in us. When you have free vouchers, something is so cheap, we will just go, you know. And these are some of the factors we have to look at.
All right. So with that, thank you very much, Datuk Seri Garry, for your time today. We are finishing already. We are finishing up. Thank you very much for friends here when following. Thank you again for watching, and sorry about the small glitches that we had. Again, Datuk Seri Garry, I'll be definitely visiting your restaurant, Chakri Palace in the rooftop, very soon. So for those who want to, check out some of these restaurants, the Chakri Palace chain, the Sanook restaurants, and all. All right. So again, thank you, and see you again.